In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
And thank you for tuning in. This is Liberty Unfiltered. I am your host, Steve Long, joined once again by my co-host, Lily Dane. Hi, Lily.
Hi.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So a lot has been going on, I assume, since the last time you were with us. Actually, we haven't done very many shows since then. The only one I can actually remember is the last one that I did, which was kind of a group interview with some libertarian candidates from out in Virginia.
Oh, how did that go?
The interview itself went really well. Technically speaking, I had a lot of problems, which kind of led me to the reason why we are now doing this as a podcast as opposed to a live airing. Because of the technical issues.
I see.
So it just made it easier, and among other things, it's just easier for scheduling and easier to promote, I think. So what's been going on with you?
Oh, just life. But of course I keep finding myself getting sucked back into talking about liberty and anarchy, and now the attacks in Paris and what to do about the refugees and immigration and ISIS.
Well, of course, Paris has been in the news quite a bit since Friday. I thought this was funny. I saw that Megyn Kelly from Fox News, she called the recent terrorist attacks in Paris one of the worst in European history. I thought that was mildly humorous.
Oh, someone doesn't know her history, does she?
No, Nazis, Soviet genocide in Eastern Europe,
Right.
Just,
oh, that's embarrassing.
I gotta say, as far as the Paris Paris terrorist attacks go, I mean, obviously, it's a sad tragedy that those people died, and those people responsible need to be condemned. But at the same time, the thing that sickens me most about this is all the xenophobia that has come out because of this.
Yeah, same here. And, heaven forbid you bring that up and mention it as a possible issue. People get really upset about that. I've been involved in some heated debates over the last couple of days on Facebook about that.
Yeah, all the xenophobes are coming out of the woodwork and using this as justification to why we should close our borders and why we should go to war against Syria, among other places. And it's kind of disappointing to see how people respond to a tragedy like that with such, with more hate.
Right, and it's a vicious cycle. And what's really bothering me is people who live in the U.S. or perhaps people who live in Paris. I really haven't seen a lot of that. I do have friends who live all over the world, but I've noticed that people they fail to acknowledge the West's involvement and personal responsibility for any of this happening in the first place.
Well, right. I mean, we armed ISIS to begin with, just like we armed Al-Qaeda back in the early 1980s.
Right, and people are saying, the hypocrisy is just astounding to me. It's, well, let's go bomb the heck out of them. Okay, so let's go back to 9/11. We were all upset about innocent lives being lost, right?
Yeah.
But now these people are saying, let's go over there and, innocent lives lost over there are just, it's collateral damage, or that's just the way it goes, and they all hate us for our freedom, and all those little, things the media feeds people.
Right.
To get them to support this. And I'm like, hold on a minute, we're talking about lots of innocent people, women and children, people who just happen to be born in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I watched a video today of some bombing going on over there, and it was supposedly they were trying to target, an ISIS compound, and it was actually not. It was families living in these little houses, and they were all running. And one of the people who was running filmed the footage on a camera. And it was terrifying to watch. I'm thinking, these people were running with their kids, running for their lives. Mm. But we've got people here saying, let's bomb the heck out of.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's like the first thing they go to, what should we do? Let's bomb somebody.
Right. Yeah, let's fix violence with more violence. That makes sense. And I'm a member of a forum, and there's a long discussion going on about the Paris attacks there. And what's really interesting to me is that the people who live in Europe, so people mostly who are, from Greece and Norway and, what was the other country? There's a couple of different countries people are posting from, and they're saying that in the media they're just seeing the refugees that they're seeing pictures of and news coverage of are all families. They're seeing a lot of women and children. Here, a lot of media sources are just showing photos of these young men. Yeah. So, they have us believing that most of the refugees are young men and they're all coming over here to kill us.
Speaking of the Syrian refugees, I'm a little confused about something. The media has been very adamant about the idea that one of the people that was involved in the attack was one of the Syrian refugees. Mm-hmm. In other words, saying one of the Syrian refugees was a member of ISIS. So why that confuses me is it not ISIS the whole reason why there are Syrian refugees? Like they're trying to get away from ISIS?
Right, they are, and ISIS has actually killed a lot of Muslims.
Right, so
either don't know that or don't care.
So why do they think a Syrian refugee had something to do with these ISIS attacks?
Because I think people see what they want to see. They don't think that deeply about it, and apparently the last I heard that passport that supposedly belonged. What's with all these terrorists carrying passports? That's a whole other question that I have that people have been bringing up, and it's worth exploring. But apparently that one Syrian refugee passport that was found was discovered to be a fake that was actually made in Turkey. And I've read that some are speculating that, some of these terrorists are trying to make the refugees look bad because they want Europe to close the borders. I don't know if that's true. It's just some speculation that I've read.
How did the passport survive?
Oh,
Isn't it just made of paper? I mean, I have a passport. I'm pretty sure I could burn it.
Right. Apparently they're made out of, some kind of miracle fiber.
It's made out of black box material.
It must be. Start building, cars out of that, or it's. Oh man. Yeah, it's baffling. It's overwhelming too. Just all the information that's coming out from all different sources, and what do you believe? But for me, it comes down to one thing, as usual, which won't be a surprise to you.
Probably not.
I don't think any of this is an excuse to say that, we need to close borders and not let people in. I mean, really, how many of these people would be actually willing to stand there at a beach and turn away a family with young kids and say, no, you need to go. I don't care if you starve and die.
Oh, I could think of quite a few people that probably would.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. I've had people ask me, actually, just a couple of minutes ago, someone asked me, would I be willing to take in a family? If I had the resources, I absolutely would.
I'd figure out how to get the resources myself. I mean.
Right. I call me a bleeding heart liberal or whatever you want, but I can't just let people who are running from a war-torn country, especially people with kids, I can't just say, no, sorry, I don't care about you because you're not American, or whatever the reason may be.
So speaking of hypocrites, mentioned earlier, all these people that would deny them refuge, or, deny them amnesty into our country, or whatever you want to call it, most of the people speaking out against that and saying, no, we don't want them in, we want to close our borders, blah, 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 those are people that consider themselves to be Christian. So number one, way to have compassion.
Right. Yeah.
Good job there. Two, you're apparently leaving parts out of the Bible where it talked about, welcoming people into your country. So,
Right, there's that whole nationalist problem.
Yeah.
Going on too, and
American exceptionalism.
Right, like none of us chose to be born where we were born. We just happened to be born here.
Right.
And I see people as people. I don't see it as, it's us versus them. And I don't understand that mentality. I've been trying very hard to kind of figure out where these people are coming from, and I just end up more frustrated.
Yeah, it's really better for you to just, call it out for what it is. It's hypocrisy, and just have your own attitude and let somebody else figure out yours.
Right.
Trying to figure out these people's mindset is just baffling.
Right, because they all think that all Muslims want all of us to die because we don't believe what they believe. Right. Well, that's not true. I have Muslim friends. I have actually been accumulating quite a bit of them as friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see their perspective on things.
Oh, yeah. I've got
saying
some
we
Muslim
condemn
friends.
this. We don't want this to happen. We're peaceful. This is not. These are extremists.
Right.
So I feel bad for them. I feel bad for the ones who are, they're going to be ostracized more than they already were.
Well, have you ever heard of the Council on American Islamic Relations?
It sounds familiar.
It's a pretty big group, but I guess every state has a chapter. But the chapter here in Oklahoma actually released a statement about the Paris attacks, condemning ISIS. I'm trying to find it here. I know it's on my timeline somewhere. Here it is. Trying to get it to load. Oklahoma Islamic Group condemns Paris attack. Oklahoma Council on American Islamic Relations is condemning today's attacks in Paris. In a written statement, CARE says the people who committed the crime should be brought to justice. These savage and despicable attacks on civilians, whether they occur in Paris, Beirut, or any other city are outrageous and without justification. The director of CARE Oklahoma is actually a friend of mine. His name is Adam Saltini. He's been on my show before, actually, come think of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, there's a lot of people out there who said, well, if they don't represent, Islam as a whole, why aren't the good Muslims condemning them? And it's like, well, they are.
They are.
They are.
I don't understand. Yeah, I've been seeing that being said all over the place too, and I'm like, are you paying attention? They are. They have been.
But really, I mean, the hypocrisy of Christian people against those that are Muslim. I mean, obviously, I don't know outside my own sphere of influence, but here in Oklahoma, it's really, really bad. It's horrible. I mean, did I ever tell you the story about how me and some friends got kicked out of a church
I don't
last
think
year?
I've heard that one.
Yeah, there was a Baptist preacher and a state representative, actually, an elected official, were putting on a kind of a town hall type thing at this pastor's church. And it was about exposing Islam. I mean, that was the whole idea. So, me and some friends went to go to this church, and a couple of the girls that were with us were Muslim, and one of them refused to remove her hijab because it's against her it's against her religion to remove it, and so they wouldn't let her in. So we started arguing with them, and we got kicked out, and the police escorted us to our cars, and we were not allowed to attend this event. So yeah.
Say to that.
It was awesome.
2015.
Yeah. Well, whatever, So.
Yeah, I think
So
everybody.
Paris was big in the news this weekend. Anything interesting you did this weekend?
No, not really. Just like I said, I've been completely immersed in this, and haven't gotten other things that I've wanted to do done. Because I just feel this urge to discuss this as if I'm going to come up with some kind of solution.
Yeah, some kind of solution.
Yeah, I think, do you know who Dan Sanchez is?
I've heard that name.
Yeah, he writes for Mises, but he also he writes for the anti-war.
Oh, okay.
He writes about war a lot and foreign policy, and he's brilliant, anarchist. But he wrote a very nice little short article. Yes, actually, it was published this morning, and it's called "A Two-Step Disengagement Would Eliminate ISIS."
Mm-hmm.
And he just pretty much says the West needs to stop supporting the Syrian insurgency and stop supporting the Gulf states that are also supporting the insurgency. And then he says the U.S. should just pretty much, stop supporting the Shiite government in Iraq. And how about, just stop intervening, period.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Not our problem. And, he postulates that perhaps if the West stopped intervening, that things would just kind of stop.
Yeah, this is one case where it's very prudent to generalize.
Yeah.
Just stop interfering everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Ron Paul's been saying that for how long?
Yeah.
He has to be shaking his head right now. I told you.
I wonder if he's shaking his head at supporting his son.
Yeah, of course I don't vote for obvious reasons, but oh.
Yeah, this whole libertarian, inside the libertarian movement, this whole stand for Rand thing, and it's like, no, thank you.
Right, out of all of the candidates, he's probably the
he's the least despicable, but
right. You won't see me, but what's funny is I've even seen some pretty hardcore liberals I know kind of like him now. A few of them have said they prefer Bernie, but they like Rand, and that kind of baffles me because they're so different. But,
yeah, what baffles me that you mentioned Bernie. is the libertarians that are coming out saying they support Bernie. It's like, what?
I think the things that might appeal to them about him is that he's so, possibly because he's so outspoken and he's against, the whole industrial prison complex and the whole military complex thing. But what makes him so bad to me is he knows nothing about economics.
Yeah, he's horrible.
Yeah. Did you happen to see the video of Neil Cavuto interviewing that representative? She was a student with the Million Students March.
No, I did not.
Well, you have to see it. I'll have to send you a link to it. Cool. Yeah, this girl went on with Neil Cavuto. He interviewed her, and she said that college should be free, and that they're demanding, which I love the use of that word in this context, demanding that all student loan debt be forgiven and a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Oh, Lord.
And of course, you know who they want to pay for this. The 1%.
Well, right.
Right. So Neil was trying to explain to her that even if that were ethical and that could happen, it still wouldn't be enough to pay for all of the things they're demanding.
I guess they really haven't gotten clued in on the very basic concept that taxation is theft.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that's the point I've been just going back to when I talk to people who support him. Is sure, he may say all these things that you like that sound really good on paper, but in reality, taxation is theft and it's violent, and if you don't see that, then I'm trying to start with that very basic premise.
That's extortion. I mean,
right, but a lot of people see it, and I get it. Like I said, I can be kind of a bleeding heart kind of person too. So I see where they're like, well, everybody should have this and it'll make everything better for society. I want society to be better too, but I think we just have a completely different way of going about making that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think libertarians in general agree and believe in the non-aggression principle. Mm-hmm. Where the lines are drawn is what they consider aggression. For instance, libertarians that are opposed to open borders, opposed to the freedom of movement. Mm-hmm. How is keeping somebody from moving from one place to another not aggression? Forcibly keeping them from moving. How is that not aggression?
Right, and you know that I agree with you. I think that's aggression. And I was in a really interesting, very long conversation today in an anarchist group that I'm in on Facebook, and we all were discussing that very problem, that people should have freedom to move, but of course the issue of the welfare state came up, and the fact that some of these people are going to live off of the system, and some of them presented the case that those people living off of the system is aggressing upon the rest of us, upon taxpayers.
Right.
And I thought that was a really interesting stance, and they made some really valid points. But I'm like, well, the state caused that. So people shouldn't have to suffer because the state has set things up the way they have. But their argument was like, well, the rest of us are going to suffer because of it, so it's aggressing upon us. So we've been going back and forth for about 10 hours now, on and off, in this discussion, and it's all these really intelligent people, and it's
kind of exhausting sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and here I am, and I like closure. I want a final answer, and it just comes down to really the state is the cause of all these problems.
Right.
The reason that people need to immigrate is because of the state. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
Oh, so that reminds me. This weekend I went to this conference. It was put on by the Students for Liberty, and it was the regional conference for 2015, held at the University of Oklahoma, and there was quite a diverse group of people at this conference. In respect to where they come from. It was not just people from Oklahoma. There was people from New Mexico and Arizona and Texas, Alabama. I think some people from Utah were there. There were some people from Massachusetts there. One guy was from New Hampshire. So it was very, very diverse, locality-wise. But it was a really good conference. I took my son Joey with me. He's 11, and it was kind of, that alone was kind of amusing because all these people who didn't know me, would come up and talk about how great it was that I had my son, having him learn all this stuff and soak in all this information at such a young age. And of course, the people who did know me, they know that I've been bringing them these things for years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been going to political events with me since he was 4 years old, so he's kind of, some ways he's probably more advanced politically than a lot of people I know.
That's the deal. I wonder what he's like at school.
Oh man, you don't want to know. Oh man, but no, it was a really good conference. There was several different speakers. The keynote speaker was David Friedman.
Oh wow.
But I got to tell you, the speakers that were the highlights. I'm trying to let's see. The first, I got there late, so I missed the first speaker. But the second speaker was a guy. Actually, I think he was the guy from New Hampshire, and his name was Charles something. I forgot what it was. Ugh. But he, I mean, for the most part, it seems like the theme of his discussion was, to put it very simple and bluntly, that electoral politics is stupid. And
wow.
his whole discussion was about how people can be politically active without being, quote unquote, politically active.
Right.
Things they can do outside of electoral politics to be active and to forward, social activism. Really great speaker. Good topic. And then there was a topic that very interesting topic about prison abolition of the prison system. So that was a good speech too. I'm sure that one would irritate many people that are on my Facebook.
I'm sure.
But it was a really good one. And what the speaker that really stood out, because that one was actually kind of a panel, and because there were three speakers for that one. But the one that really stood out to me was a guy named Nathan Goodman, who works for, well, I say works for, he writes for Center for Stateless Society.
Oh, okay. I know that site.
So he's one of their writers. Really animated speaker, really interesting. But they were really talking up, why the prison establishment should be done away with, which kind of ties into a topic we're going to be doing whenever we get around to it.
Yeah, hopefully next week.
About the death penalty.
Yeah, that'll be another one that will get some people fired up.
That'll really fire people up.
It's always such a heated discussion.
Yeah, definitely. But I gotta say, my favorite speaker and topic was a guy named Fabio Rojas. He's a sociology professor from, I can't remember where he's from. It'll come to me in a second.
Yeah, he's probably easy to find online.
Oh yeah, I don't know where he works. Indiana University. That's right.
Oh, okay.
From Indiana University. But his topic was open borders.
Interesting.
So very, very fascinating lecture. It was so awesome. And the direction he took it was kind of a open borders for dummies and then followed by an intermediate level open borders discussion, and followed by a more expert. It was very interesting the way he put it. But he talked about the very simple idea of open borders is a very core libertarian principle, and that is freedom of movement without impediment.
Right.
As opposed to restrictionism, which is the desire to design impediments to immigration or freedom of movement. And then, he's talked about the various arguments against open borders, and they take our jobs, and so before I continue talking about Fabio's talk, I saw this. It was a meme, and I'm sure it was on Facebook, that just hit the nail on the head. It was this thing about immigrants and how they are simultaneously taking our jobs and too lazy to work.
Oh, like Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so which one is it?
It's
yeah.
We need some logical consistency here.
Exactly. But so he talked about the various arguments, and one was, of course, they're stealing our jobs, and his point was, we don't actually own those jobs, so
right.
whose jobs are they taking? And then talked about the security issues, and then his whole point behind that is that most of the people who immigrate are there to make a better life for themselves. Open up a little taco truck, and what's so violent and scary about that?
Right, and if you look at how many citizens here commit crime, are we kicking them out?
Yeah, exactly.
For every million immigrants that come in, maybe a few do commit crime because when you get a large group of humans, that's just
right
going to happen. There's going to be a percentage of them that are going to be criminals. But to judge a whole group by the few,
right?
I have a big problem with that.
Oh, definitely, I do too.
And that's happening with the refugees too.
Yeah, and these people. Oh, and then there's, of course, the whole welfare object. Our argument. They're draining our welfare. So, well, you know what? Illegal immigrants aren't eligible for welfare, so they're not taking anything from our welfare system.
Right.
And the people that are taking from the welfare system, you know who you are.
Yeah, and they're supporting Social Security too. So if it weren't, and the head of the Social Security Administration has said that before.
Yeah, they're buying into the system. So
right, they're paying into it, even if they're not paying into it even if they're using fake Social Security numbers, they're still paying into the system. Their money is still going in, and I can present that to people, and they kind of brush over that, and they go to well, how? I'm telling you how.
Well, and then there's the whole, mentioned refugees. Refugees kind of ties into this whole open border thing, and also ties into this Paris thing. If we don't, welcome these people in, and force them to stay in the situation they're already in, those people are going to die.
Right.
You're going to deport them to nations where the violence is daily and much worse than you're ever going to see in Paris or even on 9/11. I mean, they deal with this on a daily basis. You're sending them back there to die.
Yeah, people don't understand that. They see 9/11 and that happened in the United States, and they see the Paris attack and that happened in a city that a lot of Americans love, but they neglect to acknowledge that this is, like you said, a daily occurrence in a lot of countries. But why don't people care? Where's the outrage? Where are the Facebook profile picture flags for those people? I asked that question a couple days ago. I said, so why doesn't Facebook offer a flag for Syria and a flag for Lebanon? Because those people are getting attacked
right
regular basis. And of course, people came in with explanations. Well, France is one of our allies. Whose allies? I didn't choose to be born here. I'm allies with everyone, unless I have a reason not to be.
I love everybody. I don't want anybody to die.
Yeah, and if that makes me some kind of bleeding heart, well then so be it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, call me a liberal, but I'm not. But
how it is with us.
Yeah.
Talking about like certain things were liberals and other things were
right. Well, Fabi also mentioned he had this slide that he put up that was talking about how people of all political persuasions should support open borders. For one, libertarians obviously should, because freedom of movement is obvious. I mean, it's a core tenet of libertarianism, I think. And then, liberals, open borders should appeal to liberals because they want to reduce inequality. So what better way to reduce inequality than let poor people move to better places?
Yeah, in my experience, most of my liberal friends are all for it. They're all for maybe not open borders. Some of them are, but a lot of them will say, well, we need to make sure that they're not terrorists first, but they're sympathetic to the plight. At least it's not, they don't have as much of a them versus us mentality. Right.
And then the conservatives. They should be for open borders because I'm sure you've noticed that conservatives have this mentality of, people pulling them up by their bootstraps and going out and working, and becoming a productive member of society. So why would you not allow these people to come in and be given that opportunity to pull up their bootstraps and become productive members of society rather than being stuck in a hellhole wherever they're at, basically being a bullet, being a target for violence.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that before.
And then the last one he brought up was the Marxists, which... There weren't. I think he was actually asking like how many people in this room are, as he was going through all of these, libertarian, liberal, conservative, and in this giant room, only one person raised their hand when he said Marxist. But his whole idea behind that was, if you want workers to organize, let them move. So
good argument. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just. But, I really think the fight for open borders is becoming more and more, and this could just be coming from a biased view, myself. I just think it's becoming more and more important to society. And unfortunately, I don't think there are any government solutions because they're all just going to argue about it. I think what's going to happen is that the backlash of social activism outside electoral politics is going to force a change. To put it one way, and I'm probably going to write an article about this as soon as I get off my butt and do it, but this whole idea of people that are in favor of open borders and fight for open borders are kind of like the new abolitionist,
I've seen some
or the new like civil rights activists, because a lot of the changes take civil rights for instance, a lot of the changes that happened in the South in regards to civil rights had nothing to do with any of the laws the government created. They were changed by things like the Montgomery bus boycott and the you remember the countertop riots, or not riots, but the countertop sit-ins.
Yes.
So things like that are what changed. They changed society. They didn't change the laws, and then the laws they were kind of behind the times. The laws had to reflect society. So civil rights didn't happen because the Civil Rights Act happened. It happened because society was forcing itself to change. But that's the case of a lot of things. I mean, the end of slavery didn't necessarily happen because a law was changed. Apartheid, the law, followed activism against it. Communism, gay rights, women's rights. There's still not an equal rights amendment.
That's true.
So
really good point that
So it's law that is following social activism. So that begs the question: where is the social activism when it comes to open borders? How do you do strategic activism against closed borders? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the first thing is going to be having to debunk all the myths about immigrants.
Definitely. Which does actually remind me of another part of his lecture where he talked about let me think. How many was it? I think it was 3. I'm going to go with 3, and if I leave one out, then oops. There's like a 3-pronged strategy. One being what he called outreach, which, as he explained it, more like education. What we're doing. He was saying what we're doing right now. We're sitting in this room talking about open borders. Or what you and I are doing right now. We're on a podcast, letting people hear about the ideas of open borders. Present the ideas in such simple ways that any of their arguments seem ridiculous. Appeal to their moral values. And then, of course, the second one was actually politics, although he kind of downplayed that one because it's kind of pointless. But his idea, his main ideas for that were like to lobby your representatives, write letters, make phone calls, blah, 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 electoral politic type stuff that, like I said, he kind of downplayed that one because it's kind of pointless. Right. And then the third one was direct action, which is just a short way of saying social activism and getting involved in things like protests and civil disobedience, and just people need to get together and brainstorm ideas of why how they can fight closed borders. But anyway, yeah, he was. I gotta say, he was my favorite speaker.
I'll have to look him up and see if I can find transcripts, maybe, or some video.
Yeah. He was. Strangely enough, he was also my son's favorite speaker.
Son's smart.
And on the drive home, it's about. I'd say it's about a 40-minute drive from where it was to where we live. So the whole drive home, we're talking about this whole idea of immigration, open borders, and kind of funny that having a serious discussion about it with an 11-year-old.
I think it's great.
Have you ever read a book by a guy named Jason Riley called Let Them In?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
I just found it at the library tonight. It's Let Them In, The Case for Open Borders. 6 arguments against immigration and why they are wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was at the library? Wow.
Yeah. I haven't started reading it because I just got it, but yeah, overall that conference was really good, and it was great to see that there are people of like-minded, anarchist persuasion around, near me.
Yeah, that's good to know, isn't it? I've recently, added a few people on Facebook who are in my area, who are anarchists, and it's nice to know that I'm not the only one around here, especially, being in the DC area.
Yeah.
You would think of here we would have more of us.
I would think if I lived in Washington, D.C., I'd be even more anarchist.
Right, you would think, because we're just right in the middle of it. I mean, I went 2 years ago, I guess it was, to the Stop Spying on Us rally in D.C. And, I'm sure there were people from all over there, but it was nice to see right smack in D.C. in front of the Capitol building, all these people. And, of course, Gary Johnson spoke and Dennis Kucinich, and it was cool to see all those people. There were a lot of people there in the city, and I wondered how many live there. Like, how many of these people live here who, support Snowden and understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot better than when, you mention the word Snowden to somebody and they say, who? Wasn't he the quarterback for that? Never mind.
Yeah, I shared a picture. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook a couple of days ago. That was of Snowden and John Cusack sitting together because they work together in the Freedom of the Press organization.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I put a comment and said, I wonder how many people know who they are and why they're sitting together. So, of course, everybody knew who John Cusack was. Some people didn't know why he was sitting with Snowden, and some people knew who Snowden was, but they still didn't understand why they were together. And I said they worked together on this, and some people said, well, that's, John Cusack's involved with that because he was pretty, Obama supporter at one point and very liberal at one point, but he's completely denounced the Democratic Party now.
Oh, that's good. I was a little bit.
Yeah, John Cusack has ranted a couple months ago. He was ranting on Facebook about government surveillance and intrusion into privacy, and so I tweeted to him and asked to interview him, and he didn't respond. I didn't think he would, but I had to try.
So there's going to be a Snowden movie coming out. Gosh, when is it coming out? It's coming out in May.
Really? Because Citizen 4 was excellent.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
Making another.
I have to find that one. But this one, it's going to be directed by Oliver Stone, so that's not necessarily a good thing. And Snowden is going to be played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Interesting choice. I like him as an actor, so
yeah.
We'll see, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll watch it. Obviously, I want to know. Oh, I mean, I also want to see Citizen 4, which I haven't seen yet, but
it's excellent. I already liked Snowden and respected him because when I started writing for alternative media, that was right around the time that all of the Snowden leaks, started coming out.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, who is this guy? This is fascinating. So I wrote about him a lot. I just continuously covered his story. And I thought, this guy is something else. Like, what a sacrifice he's made. But when you watch Citizen 4 and you really, because it's a documentary and he's in it. So when you see him talking to Glenn Greenwald and, other reporters, and he's just talking about what he saw and why he felt compelled to come out with all this information, you have a new respect for him. My respect for him heightened,
Yeah.
Oh gosh, just fascinating. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the heroes of the last decade.
For sure.
When it comes to well, I'm not sure what I would really call it. I guess I wouldn't say equal rights, but
I guess liberty.
Liberty, yeah. Just make it nice and simple. Just hero of liberty, defender of liberty.
Government accountable.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. But yeah, that's coming out in May.
That's a long way off.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Not nearly as long as I have to wait to go see Star Wars. But,
Oh, I'm going to sound. Don't kill me for this, but when does that come out?
Comes out next month.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's like December 17th.
I thought it was soon. I mean, that makes sense right in time for the holidays. It's very good marketing.
Yeah, very good strategy.
I'm sure I'll go see it. So,
I'm sure I will too.
Don't throw rocks at me or anything. I'm not anti-Star Wars.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, so, man, time flies, I'll tell you. Had a good time tonight.
I know.
Talking
Look at
about
that.
all this stuff and looking forward to more discussions. Thought we'd take a minute or two and talk about some of our favorite media outlets, including podcasts. Kind of give them, shout outs to them and whatnot.
Sure.
Of course, Center for Stateless Society is a good one. Good one to add to your news feed. And it's C as in cat, the number 4 ss.org. Let's see, what about podcasts? What are some of your favorite podcasts you'd like to mention?
Freedom Fiends, and
Definitely.
well, that's actually like a radio show, and then Seeds of Liberty.
That's a good one. Yeah,
A really good one. Also, I really like the website Art of Not Being Governed. It's one of
Definitely.
my favorites. They're great. And then also, what is the other one I like? They have such a good sense of humor. Liberty Hangout. Fantastic.
yeah, I like that one. Bring Your Own Anarchy is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Another podcast that is good. It's I want to say it's based out of Ohio, and actually it's a radio show as well. And it's called Street Fight Radio.
I haven't heard of that yet.
I don't know the link off the top of my head, but just go out on the internet and check Street Fight Radio. I'm sure you can find it. Let me think. Oh, there's actually a good podcast that just started recently, put together by two friends of mine here in the Oklahoma area. It's called Oklahotopia, and it's
I like the name.
and it's kind of they don't just talk about politics. They talk about a lot of different stuff. They talk about beer a lot because they're both beer connoisseurs.
Oh, I know some people who would love that.
But yeah, these are a couple of they're both Catholic and they're both anarchist. So interesting discussions that they have on those podcasts. So
Are they Irish too?
I don't
Catholic,
know.
you're
I think
anarchy, I don't
Lucas
know.
might be. One of the guys' name is Lucas. He might be.
I'm
Interestingly
Irish, so I
enough,
had
they
to-
just did a podcast about some vacations they recently took, and one of them discussed his recent trip to Ireland. So
There
that
you
was
go.
pretty interesting. So yeah, just look for Oklahotopia, and I think the best way to find that one is on SoundCloud or iTunes. Other than that, I guess I will go ahead and give a quick shout out to some of the K98 Talk podcasts that air, since we are kind of part of that whole K98 Talk network. Trying to pull up the schedule so I make sure I don't miss anybody. Mondays. Now, if you're a wrestling fan, I don't know if you are or not, but there's a friend of mine does a wrestling podcast called Around the Ring, and so that's a really good one to check out. Mondays starting at 8 p.m. These are all Central Time. Real Serious Nonsense with Angie and Clay. That's a decent show. Stafford Voice, a good one. That starts at 9. Excuse me. 10 p.m. is America Off the Rails. Tuesdays, what's coming on tomorrow? 7 p.m. is the Graceland radio show with Jennifer Meadows, followed by The Right Angle at 8 p.m. Actually, I think The Right Angle is not on the air anymore. But 9 p.m. is Game On with Stacy and JD. Wednesdays is 7 p.m. The Conservative Curmedgeon Show. 8 p.m. is According to Me. America Off the Rails again at 10. Actually, I think that one's on every day unless he's changed things. but there's a lot of good shows, not necessarily of any libertarian or anarchist persuasion, but still good, interesting conversations happen on those shows. More anarchist media. I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head.
I can't remember right now, but gosh, there's so much on Facebook now. If someone was looking and they just did a search, it's really growing, I think. I mean, in the last probably 2 weeks, I would estimate 260 anarchists and voluntarist types add me on
That's
Facebook.
awesome.
It's really, really great.
That's
it's
awesome.
So,
it's really, a lot more people are getting interested in it, at least somewhat interested.
Yeah.
A lot of, and in fact, I think a lot of libertarians are finally kind of leaning that way. They're finally kind of breaking off the shackles of those, minorchist views and kind of going full blown. So.
Yeah, I have a friend who was conservative. He was Republican, and he sent me a message a couple of days ago and said, "I'm not voting anymore. You've convinced me."
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it was great to hear. And then I have a couple others who I've convinced about things. So I think that, I think the internet is a beautiful thing for that. That's the main thing that I use it for now. Is
education,
activism, if
outreach.
You want to call it that. Yeah.
That's what Fabio called it, outreach.
Right. That's a good. Yeah, I like that term. Because I don't really like to say activism. That sounds kind of strange, but
yeah,
outreach. Yeah, just kind of getting people to think differently about things.
Yep.
Because if you look at the root of the problem, I don't have to say what that is.
Well, no.
Usually it's the state.
It's obvious.
So.
The government is the root of the problem.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. So, I had a good time, and I'm ready to do this again. And coming soon, we will be doing a podcast about the death penalty as we get more prepared for that one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
But other than that, thanks for all you folks listening to the podcast. And make sure to go to k98talk.com and listen to other podcasts. And that's generally where you can find our podcast. But you got any closing remarks, Lily?
No, I'm just looking forward to next week. The death penalty topic should be really interesting. Hopefully can change some minds about that. Definitely.
So if you want to follow us, you can follow me on Twitter at Otter272, or you can follow the show at Liberty Podcast, the number 1. And Lily, you want to give them yours?
Yeah, I'm Lily Dane 1. That's how you can find me.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to y'all again next time.
Soon.
Yes.
Bye.